All right, what's going on YouTube? This is BoxingWave. Let's talk Triple G and his win against Steve Rose this past Saturday. Really didn't think anything of it. This is a showcase fight. This is his first fight with the Zone. This is his first fight since he lost to Canelo. Canelo has had two fights since he beat Triple G. Regardless of how you think the fight went, this video is not about that. Okay, this is just talking about Triple G. I think this was a confidence building fight, get another stoppage. Triple G is a knockout artist and he's had some tough fights recently. He had a tough fight with Jacobs. He had two tough fights with Canelo. So this was a confidence booster, in my opinion. Stay busy fight, new DAZN deal, new trainer and Jonathan Banks. Let's take a look at some of his abilities and, just that's all. Steve Rose, like I said, he's a solid fighter, but he is on the level or beneath some of the fighters that he stopped early. I compared him at middleweight to not even Willie Monroe, not even Curtis Stevens. I kind of like was comparing him to maybe a Dominic Wade. Who else I said? Vanes Monterosian. A guy that was inactive, a guy that isn't even a guy from 160. Um, Nobody really went into it. I mean, I see how they was real slick this past week in promoting the fight. They were comparing this to Joshua and Ruiz, basically saying like, look, maybe Steve Rose can have his moment against Triple G like Andy Ruiz did. Maybe he could pull off the upset. That's how they promoted the fight. I mean, promoters are gonna promote. It is what it is. Don't really take it that serious. Really not that deep. But Golovkin stops him in 4 rounds. Uh, people are talking about the fact that he got hit a lot. What I saw in the fight is Triple G trying out some new things. He's trying to be slick. He was trying to use head movement. He was trying to time the punches. And, listen, I've seen his open workouts with Jonathan Banks. Like I said in a video I did last week, he has a new bounce and the stab looked a lot light-footed. I pretty much knew he was going to go in this fight trying to be slicker, you know. He is older. And let's talk about his age real quick. He is older. Uh, he doesn't have the speed that he has. He's definitely on the decline. He's still very, very good. I still believe that he's a pound for pound fighter. But he is declining very slowly, okay? Uh, People bring up his speed a lot. I think that's true. I think he has lost some speed. He looks in great shape. He still looks very good. But, maybe it is a good time to have a different trainer in there to show some sort of defense. We already know what Triple G can do. We already know how aggressive he is. He's a front foot heavy type of fighter, throws a lot of jabs, big puncher, puts a lot of pressure on his opponents. But lately, and maybe it's because of the opposition he's been facing, he hasn't been as aggressive. Okay, he wasn't as aggressive. He wasn't the guy that we normally see against Daniel Jacobs. Even though he stopped Kell Brook, he took a lot of hits there, and we saw in the two Canelo fights. But this is the thing with Triple G, man, and I love Triple G, so don't come here thinking I'm some hater. Big supporter of him on this channel, have been for a very long time. He always looks this good when he faces lower opposition. We know when it comes to lower opposition, he's always going to completely dominate every single one of them. We know that already. You know, when I found out he was fighting Vanes Monterosian, I was like, this is just a fight just to get a quick knockout because the people have been talking and the knockouts aren't there. And you put Manny Pacquiao against the ring with any lower, lesser opponent, he's gonna do the same thing. It is what it is. That's what happens when you get in the ring. People like to talk about Pacquiao hasn't had a stoppage in a while, but you put him in a ring against lower opposition, he is going to destroy them. Look what happened to Lucas Matisse. And Matisse was a very good fighter at one point, but at this stage, at this point in his career, Pacquiao easily destroyed him. And this is why This is what happens. People talk about long periods of times without getting a stoppage. Once you put them in there with someone that's likely to get stopped, Manny Pacquiao is going to stop him. You know, and it's the same. The same rules apply with Triple G. You know, he is going to beat the hell out of any lesser, lower opponent. It is what it is. You know, now, as far as him getting hit a lot, obviously he didn't have a high guard at all. He wasn't throwing a lot of jabs at all. The guy was getting he was definitely trying to work on things he's learned with Jonathan Banks, obviously. And going into this fight, I said this is going to be a fight where, you know what, don't get an early stoppage. Fight a few rounds with the guy, you know, mix things up a little bit, try out some, whatever defensive abilities you've learned, and then go for the stoppage at some point. And that's exactly what he did. It didn't look great. You're not gonna become this slick fighter in one fight. It doesn't. One training camp. It doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. Okay. It's going to take time. At this point, and this was the main argument. At this point, at this age, how much can you really change Triple G? That was the big question going into this fight. And a lot of people feel like maybe training with Jonathan Banks isn't really worth it. Maybe you should stick to what you do best. Okay? I think you could go either way with that, because it's like we already know what he does best. He's good at what he does best, but at 37 years old, maybe add a little bit more to your game, you know? If Jonathan Banks can make you if he can work on your reflex and touch up on your reflexes a little bit, okay? Maybe it can, I don't know. You fight Canelo for a third time, maybe Canelo doesn't land as many shots. Okay, maybe you could slip some of those punches. But you have to be aggressive though. And in round four, when Triple G just said, screw this, I'm gonna go in there and knock him out. I'm just gonna fight the way I normally fight. That's what he did. It reminded me a little bit like when he fought Willie Monroe, when he was just letting Willie hit him in his head. The man is confident enough to take shots and return them at will whenever he's ready to. He knows how to toy with fighters, and that's what I saw in this fight. He toyed with Steve Rolls. He said, I'm going to try out my new abilities, and when I'm ready to get you out of there, I'm going to get you out of there. And that's it. And that's it. That's it. It was a crazy knockout. And that's it, man. That's it, man. Now, moving forward, Golden Boy, De La Hoya, he's basically coming out and saying, look, good win, but fight a real fighter. And I dropped a video about that maybe a month or so ago about De La Hoya and his comments, fight for a championship belt, or Oscar said, before we have a third fight, do something important. He said this before the fight. He said it again after the fight. And I made a video basically saying, listen, regardless of how I feel the fights went, I think that Canelo definitely owes him a third fight, because I feel like Triple G won. I think Canelo got another gift in his first fight. I think the second fight was more debatable. But, yo, man, I don't want to see a third fight right now. And this goes to Triple G. At this stage of your career, are you working on your legacy, or are you working on just getting a big payday and beating up some lower opponents until you get another payday? Because we already know the big payday is the Canelo fight. But what are you planning to do in between that? Because Canelo could wait a couple of years longer to fight you. You're only going to be older by that point. If he fights you, I don't know, if he fights Triple G next September of 2020, what are you going to do in between that time? Because as a middleweight that had once held 3 titles, went on a long streak of knocking opponents out. I brought up, them comparing you to Bernard Hopkins and his legacy, and I kind of didn't like the way they did that because they made it seem like his title defenses were with major titles. They weren't, you know. I didn't like how they did that, but that's what HBO was doing to promote their fight. They'll do anything to promote. The network will do anything and say anything to promote their fighter. That's just the way it works. Um, what are you planning to do? Are you planning to still build your legacy as a middleweight champion? Okay, as a middleweight great. If you are trying to do that, you should be fighting guys like at middleweight. You should be fighting guys like Jamel Charlo. You should be fighting guys like Demetrius Andre, who holds a title. If you're gonna stay or try to go to 168, are you gonna fight Callum Smith? Are you gonna fight Billy Joe Saunders? Are you gonna fight Chris Eubank? Who are you going to fight to build your legacy? Because Steve Rose isn't it. Okay, Steve Rose and some of the other options. I mean, that you may have in the future. If you're gonna just look to beat up like easy fighters and get quick, easy knockouts, we already know that you can do that. Like we already know you're at that level. You're a great fighter. We know that. But what are you going to do? Are you just looking for the bag, or are you looking for legacy? And if you're looking for legacy, some of these other fighters are proven fighters, so fighters that that would be great on your resume if you are to beat them. But you have to take more risk in these fights. And I understand some of these fights are low risk or high risk, low rewards. But are you looking for legacy, or are you just looking for the bag? That's the question. You know, you could beat up a few more fighters until you get Canelo. Hopefully, Canelo chooses you. But what if Canelo doesn't choose you? What if Canelo loses at some point? What if he has a draw and he has another rematch with another tough opponent? Whoever he decides to face, you know. Uh, Canelo's already had 2 fights. He's fought Daniel Jacobs, beat him easily, then Triple G beat him. Okay, beat Jacobs, no problem. No problem. He beat Jacobs, no problem. Jacobs was your toughest fight to date, in my opinion. Okay? Between him and Canelo, he was the toughest Triple G opponent. And Canelo beat him, no problem. Okay, the fight was competitive, but some people say, like I said, it was a sparring match, but it was no problem with Canelo winning that fight. I think Canelo won pretty handily. You know, what are you going to do? Canelo doesn't really need you. You need him more than he needs you. He's one. He could fight Andre himself. So if Andre, what do I want? If Andre beats Zaleski, fight him. Or if you're just pushing the Canelo fight Jamel Charlo after he fights Jamal Charlo after he fight Brandon Adams, and get that WBC mandatory position so you can fight for a title. But if you're just gonna fight lower, lesser opposition, random fights like this just to get quick, easy knockouts, no one's gonna really care. No one cares that you beat Steve Rose. You were supposed to beat him. You're gonna beat guys like him, Vadas Martirosyan, Dominic Wade. You're gonna beat all of those guys. You know, what are we gonna get from you? So that's really up to Triple G. I like Triple G regardless of what he does. If he's just looking for money grabs, if you're looking for a money grab, you still at the very least you must at least fight a Jamal Charlo, in order to put you in some sort of position to fight Canelo Alvarez. If that's what you want, you have to at least fight Jamal Charlo. And that's a fight that you weren't interested even when you were with your previous trainer. Abel Sanchez has said publicly a few times that, listen, they have no interest in fighting Jamal Charlo. So if you're not interested in fighting Jamal Charlo, what exactly are you interested in besides Canelo? You know, I wish the Saunders fight happened at 160, but it didn't happen. You know, at first it was Saunders for. I believe the second time, Triple G is the one that didn't take the fight when Saunders wanted the fight. You know, but I don't know how serious Saunders was at the time. I mean, Saunders is a guy that failed PEDs and failed the drug tests and was on PEDs, and he never fought Andre. You know, he moved up in weight and never fought Andre, so he doesn't have that much credibility neither. But there's still other guys at 168 that you can definitely fight that has more credibility than fighters like Steve Rolls. You know, and as far as Jonathan Banks, I'll end it with this. As far as Jonathan Banks, like I said, you're not going to make a dramatic change in one fight. It doesn't matter how you look at these open workouts. It doesn't matter how you look. You can look great. You can look amazing. You can look like a freaking, you know, a defensive master in these open workouts. It doesn't really matter. You know, at the end of the day, it's going to take time. And these changes at this stage of your career, should you just be aggressive or should you try to be someone that you're not? You know, work on a few things, but don't try to completely change your style because we already know once you fight someone, if you're not going to fight Canelo Alvarez that same way, you're not going to take the risk of taking hits because you want to see if you could dodge these punches. You're not known for your counter punching ability. You're not known for your defense. You have decent defense, but you know, you need to throw a lot of jabs. You need to be coming forward. You need to apply a lot of pressure. Some fighters can do that and have great defense at the same time. Lomachenko can do it, you know, but you're not that. You're not that. And, you know, I don't know how this new way of fighting is going to work when you fight the tougher fighters. You know, if you fight Jamal Charlo, you can't go in there just trying to, you know, slip punches all day. It's not going to work. It didn't work against Steve Rose. Steve Rose landed some good shots in there. Clean shots, popping this guy's head back. We know Golovkin wasn't hurt, but why take the unnecessary punishment for what? Even from a guy that's not a big puncher like him, those shots look like they hurt. And at this stage, you don't need to take any more unwarranted punches like that. All right. Anyway, that's my thoughts, man. I want to see Triple G. What I really want to see Triple G do, if he's going to stay at 160, I want to see him fight the winner of Selesky and Andrade. All right? And then I want to see a unification match from there. You know, that's if Canelo doesn't fight Andrade himself. If Andrade is to win or Selesky is to win. I want to see Undisputed. If he's going to fight at 168, I would love to see the Callum Smith fight. You know? Or any of those other fights with the top fighters at 168. They're all cool. But that's what I want. Okay? So drop your comments, drop your thoughts in the comments, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. Peace.